Hi, everybody. This is Laura DiCarlo from Career Directors International here, and we're talking all things ultimate success without the stress for resume writers and career coaches. I am super excited to have you joining me here today. Listen, we're currently streaming on CDI's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and LinkedIn page. But this is really important. If you're streaming on Facebook, you're going to want to go to chat.restream.io/FB, as in Facebook. That's chat.restream.io/FB. That'll let you give Restream permission to let me see your name. Otherwise, all I'm going to see is Facebook user. And if you write a comment or ask a question, I'm not going to know who you are. And I so want to converse with you, digitally here as we go forward. So before we go any further, I do need to introduce you to my supervisor, my co-host. No, it's not Lynn, who is on the back end chatting with you and helping show you these things. This is Tallulah, and I'm super surprised. She's sleeping right over my left shoulder right now, so you can't see her, but normally when I start talking, she starts screaming vocally her opinion. So watch her prove me wrong today, but you just never know. And for anybody who's joined me, I would love to know what kind of pets you might have. Feel free to drop it in the chat for me so I can get to know a little bit more about you. Now, this is our regular Wednesday show where I'm empowering resume writers and career coaches to up their game with advanced technical skills, business shortcuts, and strategy to succeed with ease. This season, we're focusing on learning what's working and what's not in career industry businesses today by tapping into the results of CDI's recent critical industry analysis survey. And hey, if you don't know me yet, my goal is to become your not-so-secret superpower. At Career Directors International, we provide all the tools, scripts, done-for-you resources, training, and support you need to not only love what you do and excel at it, but make a difference while making an exceptional living. And I love that because it's such an industry with a heart. So today we are talking about what's working and what's not in marketing for resume writers and career coaches in 2023. And this is all going to be based on that critical industry analysis survey we did over what resume writers and career coaches have been doing in the last 6 months. But sorry to tease you, but before we go into that, I want to challenge you to do 3 things. First, let me know who you are. If you're completely new to my stream and me, then drop me a #newbie in the chat. But if you're part of our free community or you're one of my association member career superheroes, go ahead and drop me a #SUPES, SUPES, short for career superheroes. And I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet today, so we're getting a slow start. Hopefully we'll see people picking up and joining us or being willing to share here in a moment. Again, if you're on Facebook, make sure to go to chat.restream.io/FB so you can give permission so I can see your name. Hey, and Gina's here. Hey, Gina, one of our soups. So good to see you. It makes me feel warm to know that somebody I adore is here. But listen, if you're not here live and you're catching the replay, be sure to use #replay when you comment. That way, I know how I magically missed you in the conversation. All right, that was 1, and it was more wordy than 2 and 3, I promise. So if you have questions while we're going forward, be sure to put them in the chat. Lynn is monitoring for me so I don't miss anything. Hi, Lynn, thank you. And if you can, start them with the word question, because that way it's much easier for us not to miss something that might have been really critical. And third, hey, if you don't want to miss my show because you like these tips, strategies, and inside knowledge, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out, because we are going live every Wednesday at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so let's get to talking about it. Gina says, looking forward to today's chat. Thank you, Gina. I am looking forward to it too. All right, so we are talking about, sorry, I'm looking all over the place here. What's working and what's not in marketing for resume writers and career coaches in 2023. So listen, last week we discussed that outdated marketing showed up as the most usual cause for any career services businesses to be struggling this year. We also debunked that it has anything to do with AI, unless you're at that very low range of price rates, meaning that it seems like DIY comparable and it's a luxury, so why should I invest in it? Go watch the last live or read my details about it in some of my future posts if you're not familiar. But I'm talking about it in my social media posts, and basically I'm begging those in distress to start reasserting themselves with their marketing, because it is all about marketing. So let's talk about this. When I wanted to add some VA supporters to CDI's team, I did two things. And yes, it sounds like I'm just jumping into this, but this is really relevant. So I want you to think about how people make buying decisions today more often. So we needed some team members, and I did look around on the internet initially, and I felt just completely overwhelmed. Where do you start? How do you vet? There's so many listings. So I asked those I knew for referrals to good VAs. And two, I happened to stumble upon one in my own LinkedIn feed who was sharing content and happened to be connecting at just the right time. So what do you think happened? I looked into them. I checked their social profile. The one on LinkedIn, I specifically looked at what's she posting. Is her content good? What's her background? Can I click through to a website now that I'm interested in knowing more? And I interviewed them, and I ended up hiring two that way, and they're fabulous and wonderful. And so, the good news there is that, especially for established businesses, we're going to get there in a minute with those lovely charts that you love so much. But we're talking about things that are very actionable, that don't require you to have to jump through a lot of hoops to take on. So let me get my ugly slides in, and I will warn you now, these are by far scary slides, because there's a lot of categories that we had to bring into play here, but we're not spending a terrible amount of time on going through these. It's more so you have a visual. Okay, I know that's a lot, right? There's a lot of categories. This is the lowest grossing marketing techniques of career services businesses in the past 6 months. So first off, like I said, a lot of categories, but surprisingly, there were actually categories that I removed before we put these charts together, because no one was using them, like a quiz as a lead magnet, or Clubhouse. And we have one on this list that somebody tried, TikTok, and it hit their lowest gross, and it doesn't show up as anything on highest gross at all. So not a lot of use there. Secondly, it's super interesting to me, and you can't make this comparison yet, but one of the things that was lowest ROI is, I think it's referrals, also shows up on a highest ROI. Same thing with the CDI Q&A contributions. That's our question and answer series, where we ask our members a question, and we most likely will feature your response in blog posts, and then we splash it all over social media and tag you and give you strategies on how you can spread the word. Well, this had a certain number of participants saying this was their lowest grossing option, but when we get to the next slide, you're going to see that for some it was their highest grossing option. So, I have some insight into things like this, in that we're never going to understand everything we see in the data in these charts, because there's things going on that we're not taking into account. And the Q&As is a perfect example on why would some have this be the best opportunity and others have it be the least. And so let me tell you really quickly how it works. So we share an email and a post, and we tag the people who participated in both of those. We put it on our blog. We give instructions that you should like and comment on our post, that you should write your own post, that you might want to share the tip that we on social media with your audience, just different variations of things they can do to spread the word about the fact that I've been featured as an expert on this topic. We also suggest share the tip with your list. You know, if you've got an email list of former clients and prospects, this is a great place to put it. Now, the only thing we can see to track is when someone is engaging in our posts on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or when they're tagging us. And what I can tell you is that if we are featuring 10 to 17 people in one of these expert Q&As, we'll maybe see 3 to 4 people who ever even interact with it, maybe 1 or 2 who shares it or does a post about it. So yeah, passive marketing strategy isn't super effective. You're basically saying, I'm just hoping to piggyback on the coattails of the action someone else took on my behalf, and that's not marketing. You need to be active. Gone are the days of just waiting for business to find you. So you have this ripe plum of featured as an expert. You need to go out there and put some energy into putting it out there for everyone. And that's also why we're seeing low ROI with website updates, because it's very much a passive thing. I'm not in any way saying you shouldn't have an up-to-date good website, because that's where people are going to go. And we cannot rely 100% on a social media channel being the direction for us to get all our business, for instance. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, like ProFinder being, closed to new people, or if you got blackballed, you can't get back in. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but you still need to have a strong presence for people who want to know more about you. So, all right, let me ask you guys in the chat. I hope that's more than Gina, but Gina, I hope you're here to play. What have you found, if you have, to be your lowest grossing marketing strategies you've tried this year? Is there anything you've done out of the ordinary, new, that you were like, yeah, that was a bust? All right, I see a question from my admin. She's trying to make sure everybody is okay. While we wait to see if any answers come into the chat on lowest grossing marketing strategies, I will switch my slides over to highest grossing. Now, don't go cross-eyed on me, because our very next slide is going to hone in on the top 3 for each audience, which interestingly enough is pretty much the same. But all I really want to point out to you here are the places that are working best across the board for most people. Rebecca says, oh, okay, she's answering someone else's question. And Gina says TikTok for sure. Yes, TikTok seems to be, hasn't really taken off for many people in at least the sector I've talked to so far of career service providers. Although it's really interesting, because some are killing it, but then I'm also hearing that the advice they're giving is horrible, so I don't know. All right, so the top things we're seeing here: customer referrals, referral programs, which are formal referral programs typically with clients. I know that's a little confusing. Partnerships and referrals, posting on LinkedIn. And then there, as you can see, a few outliers. For the declining businesses, we had Google My Business kind of tying in. And for those whose revenue stayed the same, Hope People Call was one that was kind of high on the list. Not as high, but kind of tying for low third place. So one thing I love here, I absolutely love this, and I can't wait to see what you guys have to say in the chat. But I love that I'm not seeing complicated marketing strategies here. We're not seeing you must have a quiz funnel, or you must have a oh gosh, my mind just went blank, but quiz funnel, a live stream show. Gosh, what I'm doing right now, right? We're not talking about things that are really difficult. We're talking about things that are actionable and accessible and are really low-hanging fruit. So that's very lucky. And also, you're never going to hear me stop saying that what a wonderful profession for you all to be in, because it's an industry where literally anyone you talk to, anywhere at any time, will know someone who could use at least part of your services. When I was a career professional, that was such an ideal situation. So, all right, let me ask you guys in the chat, are there any strategies you've tried in the last 6 months to a year that you found to be particularly successful, that they're paying off for you? Maybe the same as what I've shown or different. Okay, while we're waiting for those, I will go to the third, much more simple and friendly slide. Okay, how neat is this, right? That it's really well balanced between these three strategies are pretty well balanced between people who are declining, staying the same, and increasing. And as a side note, I also posted polls on my personal LinkedIn page, CDI's Facebook group, and in the stories on CDI's Instagram. And I asked, they limit you to only 4 options. So I was, creative and having an other category, but literally every single time it played out in the exact same pattern you see here, with customer referrals being first, and partnerships being second, and posting on LinkedIn being third. There were some things people added, like SEO and whatnot, and there's always going to be something working for some other person. But still, it was in the same order that we saw the statistics. And let's see, a Facebook user saying, really learning how to write engaging posts on LinkedIn. Yeah, absolutely. And Gina says, I'm trying to do that now, but I'm intimidated. Well, thank you for being so, for being willing to be vulnerable and say that you're intimidated by LinkedIn. I'm going to be talking a lot about that when we start talking about LinkedIn posting strategies. And I know you want everything now, and I want to give you everything now. But when I was putting together content for today, I was like, well, I want to deep dive in each of these 3. And if I do, then we're here for like 2 hours. So I'm not going to be talking about LinkedIn today. But I am going to be talking about that because we all start there. It feels super intimidating. And there's some ways, if you know me, if you know my story, super shy introvert, got basically heart palpitations every time the phone would ring. And that's the old school business model, folks, because I was a resume writer and career coach in the mid-90s, and the phone was the way you got your leads. And I would have a panic attack when the phone would ring, just having to speak to someone. So I am all about strategies for busting imposter syndrome and feeling safe and comfortable doing things that might be out of your comfort zone. So Gina, we're going to get you past that hurdle for sure. And folks, if you're in the Career Industry Accelerator Club, which is our new name, I'm super excited for the Fly Higher Tribe. We're doing monthly teachings, and that will probably come up. I think that's what the next Wednesday at noon Eastern. So we will probably give you guys a training on that in advance of everybody else. So look forward to that. And my Career Industry Accelerator group club, you get the recordings of that if you don't make it live. But live is awesome, right? We're here live today. So, okay. What other strategies would you possibly add to this list? You see these top 3 here. Is there anything that is like, well, no, that's not even my top 3. My number 1 would be this. I would love to see it in the chat if you want to drop it there. Okay. Sorry, I am like super parched today. I don't know why that is, but all right, let me close these slides up. All right, so I already educated you all that we're only taking one topic today. And I opted to focus on the one that's scoring the highest, which is the customer referrals. And that might seem like it's a very black and white subject. And you're also probably thinking, well, how for some people could that be a lowest grossing technique, right? Let me see. Facebook user said, friend referrals are not the best as they assume they can get it for next to nothing and free. Yeah, I don't even like friend referrals at all. They're very uncomfortable. And we'll definitely be able to talk about that one if we want to, but quite often you have to set very, very clear boundaries with friends. Is there a barter you can do, or is there some other approach you can take, or are you willing to do it for less, or can you just say, hey, look, I am so booked with paying clients right now, and this is my livelihood, that I would be glad to do this for you if you will do Y for me, and give them some comparable task, which I know resume services and career coaching services aren't cheap, but let them know, this is what I charge. Or be very transparent. Like what I would say to my closest friends is, you know what, I will give you a copy of my book, Resumes for Dummies, because I have copies, and you work on it yourself, and then I'll be glad to review it and give you pointers and tips. And if you decide you want to hire me to actually improve it and bring it up to my level, then we can talk about it then. And I've actually had friends who've been like, well, actually, Laura, I would love to just hire you. Let's go forward. But there are more friends and family who think that you should just do this for free. And sorry, Dad, but when I told Dad what I was doing for a living, a now retired engineer, he initially said, who's going to pay for that? I write my own resume. And that can be a voice that sticks with you, but that's a whole nother subject that we aren't going to get into today. All right, Janine says, agreed, Rebecca. Okay, all right, so let's talk about, well, I started talking about customer referrals already. So, all right, the whole referrals are a low producer for you. I want to address that really quickly, because to me, my opinion on that is it probably means that, again, you're passively waiting and assuming that your clients are going to refer to you. But I want to share with you 2 really quick stories from when I had a career services practice that I think illustrate how we can never assume anything. And that's not just the cheeky, oh, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I hate that, but it's true. It is true, right? But okay, so I can't tell you, and I'd be super interested to know in the chat if anybody else experiences this, but I cannot believe how many people, when I would be debriefing them at the end of a session, they would stop me before I got to the whole referrals are the lifeblood of my business part. And they would ask me, they would be like, do you accept referrals? Or sometimes I would get this, when somebody was coming back for an update who didn't remember our initial conversation, and they'd be like, can I send you referrals? And please note, I was not a niche business back then. I didn't have to do that because resume writing at that time, in the years I'm thinking of, was such a new thing that there weren't specialists in niches. So I took all clients. So it wasn't a matter of an IT person asking if they could refer a admin person or a C-level person. But the number of people who asked me, if I took referrals was stunning, to the point where it made it very clear to me that if I'm not asking for referrals, people may not ever think to give me referrals. It's just not wired into everyone's DNA to think that they should refer people to you. And then my other little story is, the other thing that would come up for me is I'm really big on follow-up with people. Like if you're a CDI member, you're getting regular communications through CDI. We're there in your inbox regularly. And I tried to do a similar thing with my clients, even before autoresponders, the importance of, being in front of them. But another thing I saw a lot of, and again, would love to know in the chat if anyone else experiences this, is even though I would end every client engagement with, if it was face-to-face, I could hand them, business cards. And I know that's old school. I'm going to talk about alternatives to that. But even though I was like tangibly giving them something, it was so often that after one of my emails went out, somebody would reach out and they'd be like, "Oh, thank goodness I'm on your list," because all I could remember was it was competitive something and your first name Laura and that you have this beautiful brown hair. It's just like totally random, but they would forget who, the name of the company, which it was really easy. It was acompetitiveedge.com. That doesn't get much easier than that, I think, but they could just remember competitive and they couldn't find me. So how do you refer someone or go back to someone's service whose name you can't remember? And it's really sad, but unless it's something really, really memorable, which I thought my business name was, it's really easy for them to not be able to find you. So you've absolutely got to nurture your clients. And let me clarify, I'm about to give you some strategies that I think work really well for nurturing our clients and creating a lovely referral bath for them to, remember you and engage with you and send people to you. This is not about having to do everything, but Janine, who's here, I was commenting on one of her posts. I think it was last week. I want to go, it was a few days ago, but kind of entered a time warp of social media where it's just it seems like it's all the time. But anyway, I ended up talking about how when I used to be a director of a career planning program at a private university, I would play interview poker with my students. But before we actually started the poker game, I would be talking to them about things they could do in their job search. And for every technique I gave them, I laid a poker chip on the table. And there's a lot of things you can do to look for employment besides just applying blindly for jobs online. You guys know this because this is what you do for a living. But by the time I was done, there'd be this nice big pile. And I would be like, look at all these opportunities you have to go out there and be successful. I would say, but you don't have to do all of these things. I would be like, maybe you don't do this, and maybe you don't do that. And I'd be, I'd start reversing out some of the poker chips and the pot would get smaller. And I would say, but the only thing I want to stress to you is that for every option you take off the table for the ways you're going to do this, you need to know that somebody else is going to do this. Somebody else is going to be all in. So that doesn't mean being all in is a necessity for you, especially with your clients. They're your clients and not everybody else's in career services. But still, the more you do, the faster you can usually get results. Tony Robbins was one of my first influencers back in the late 90s. And he talked about his story. I think he goes by Anthony Robbins now, right? But his story was very much focused on if other people were doing 2 to 3 speaking engagements a month, I was trying to do, 20 or 30 speaking engagements. My numbers are off, but I just remember thinking that he's like, I knew I could excel faster if I was willing to do more. And that's really the truth if you do it well. The idea is not just to scatter plot and try to hit everything erratically. It's either pick one thing and do it really well, or pick multiple things and do them really well. Let's see, Janine says, it reminds me of testimonials. People have good intentions and want to give you a referral, but they get distracted, just like referrals. They want to refer people, but they forget your name, like Laura just said. Oh, gosh, yeah. Perfect example, Janine. Perfect. And something I just read there, I was like, oh, and I want to say such and such. Oh, distractions. Yeah, it's the other reason why you'll always hear me when I'm talking about people who ask for anything in networking. Like when we do our speed networking give receive event in, I think it's 3 weeks from now, a couple weeks from now, I don't know, the week after US Thanksgiving. I already have planned when I'm talking about that event with you guys to remind everyone that when you ask for something from anyone, when your job seekers go out and ask for like a referral, when you ask for a recommendation, if you're not following up, yeah, people tend to forget. But here's, to me, what's even worse. And again, tiny story time. I don't know why this story sticks with me, but in the very beginning, I was Sears Resume Service in the Sears and Roebuck store. And one day I was standing outside and I was speaking to a guy. I think I just needed light because I was always inside. And I was speaking to a guy who worked in the Sears and Roebuck store. And he was like, yeah, you know, I need to get back into and this is really random, the helicopter field. I think he was like some type of technician or engineer. And he was biding time, needing to get back into the field he'd been in the military. He's like, do you know anybody? And I'm like, I don't, nothing is coming to mind. And that is like the default for a lot of us busy people, is that throw something at us and we freeze. I have no idea. And the very next day, I talked to somebody who would have been, you know, great. And I thought, oh, I got to tell, what's his name? I don't even know what department he works in. I need to remember to go, you know, talk to him. And then here's the scary thing that happens when you're asking somebody for something and you're not following up with them. Then I started to feel guilty because like he really deserved to know this and he'd asked me and wanted to know, but you know what? I'm super busy and I'm super busy. I'm not using that as an excuse, but don't we all get busy and best intentions go out the window? And who wants to feel crappy about it? I don't. So the next thing you know, you're like, well, if he really wanted to know, he would follow up with me because this is his need, right? And honestly, I think a lot of people either forget, like Janine said, or they justify it. And I've forgotten, and when I remembered, been like, oh, damn, and now I feel like a heel. And I'm like, well, if he really wanted to know, he would have followed up. Same thing happens here with referrals and testimonials. So ironic that, Janine, you brought up testimonials, because that's literally where I'm starting. And you're probably like, how does a testimonial have anything to do with a referral? And it's because it's part of a process. And I'm not going to go too far down the testimonial path because I have really strong opinions about it, because I've always trained my clients to track everything about their job search. How many interviews did you have? How many resumes did you send out? How many interviews did you have? How many job offers? What did people say they liked anything about your resume? They liked something in particular. What are you most happy about? Tracking all that information and getting them super excited to share it with me, not being afraid to have them possibly come back and go, Laura, it's not working. I'm not getting interviews. Because guess what? I get to reinsert myself in the process, however briefly, look at what they're doing and possibly either sell them something else, remind them, and that's usually around reminding them that they opted not to take the strategy sessions that I felt they would need. But it's this engagement opportunity that keeps you from going down the path of they decided it wasn't worth it, which how often does that come down to it being on what you did? In my career and that of all the other career professionals that I have engaged with who are really good at what they do, it's never about what you delivered. It's about their misuse of what you delivered. Like the guy who's like, I'm not getting interviews. Well, Tom, tell me what you're doing. Well, I'm flying from Boston to Florida and I'm going to job fairs. What are you doing at the job fairs? I'm handing out my resumes. Okay, are you talking? Are you following up? Are you doing anything to stand out? No. Okay, so like for that person, I was like, okay, this is why this isn't working. Here's what I would recommend we do. In that case, I'll tell you, it was actually a mini resume that we clipped onto his physical resume. And he turned it in that way. And it was like, people were like, what's this little thing? I got to know what this is because this is different. And he started getting calls. But often we hear things like, they're not targeting the resume. They're applying for things that they shouldn't be applying for. They're not doing their research on the company before the interview. So reinserting yourself in the process by getting them excited to track what they're doing and give you, not necessarily give you feedback throughout, but be in touch with them so you can, getting ahead of myself here. Okay, I'll slow down. I got excited. So tracking. For those of you who are CDI Association members, in your membership section, your membership portal, you actually have a whole lesson on this. There's, for those who aren't members, there's a free little like 5-minute video on this, but members, you get a downloadable form. It's my example of, what to have them track. And if anybody here is connected to or should be connected to Bridget Batson of Houston Outplacement, man, she did what if I could have dreamed of someone coming up with a strategy for getting clients engaged in the tracking process and having her be top of mind through their job search. She actually created a dashboard. And if you go back in her LinkedIn, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, she actually shows the dashboard where it's got a pie chart and it's showing job seekers' activities. So it's like, what do people love today? They love games, they love interaction, they love apps, they love visuals. And she did this, and it's just a great top of mind thing. But here's the deal. I'm talking about testimonials because a happy client, one who you held their hand through the process so that they didn't have an opportunity to disengage and blame you when the resume didn't work or the strategy didn't work. They're talking to you, they're remembering you, they're referring you, and super bonus, they're delivering to you a metrics-driven success story. And there is nothing that sells prospective clients like that. All my testimonials were that way, and it's not even my idea. It was an idea that was given to me by the company I first worked for as a contractor, but I worked that hard, and all my testimonials weren't fluffy. They were metrics driven, and people look at that and they go, I've never had success like that. I want that. Their friends look at it. They are now talking about you in this great results focused way. All right, enough on testimonials. Who else loves testimonials? I mean, I think we all love testimonials, but I would love to hear anything you guys have to say about them. All right, Janine says, the clients I've helped who didn't do well didn't follow the guidance. My favorite is when a client says that his friend told him to do something different. I ask if the friend is a career expert and they say no. So and so is an engineer or whatever. I call that my friend's sister's brother's cousin's aunt's niece who used to work in HR says. That's how I always describe that, because it's like the death of everything. But listen, it's usually that they don't follow your advice, like Janine said. One of the reasons, and I know this is totally off topic, but one of the reasons, it's not though, one of the reasons I'm so big on selling packages, complete solutions, and not just what the one service someone might have come to you for. They don't know any better. They've just been told they need a great resume or they need to brush up on their interview skills. So they don't know that they're not up to snuff in the other areas. But even if somebody doesn't select a package with you, The really critical thing here is that you educated them on the necessity of these training wheels, or the example I give has always been your resume. It's like somebody just delivered a beautiful new Mercedes into your driveway. But before you can get super excited about this beautiful, sexy, classy Mercedes, I need to point out to you that it does not have an engine. And you still need to get the engine, which is, in our situation, the strategy for propelling your job search and that resume forward. Janine says, as far as testimonials, yes, agree. I need to get better with asking for testimonials later in the process instead of right after the service. This way I can get good metrics. But see, that's the deal. I'm so glad you brought that up, Janine, because that's the deal, is we still, instead of asking for them, we're educating them. So I'm really big on having a debrief session with clients. I know a lot of times we're just like, I'm so busy and I'm just going to send them the stuff and be done. But if you can have even a 15-minute closeout session with a client, again, don't assume they just are going to read an email and do all the things you suggest, like send me referrals and track your stuff. Here's your tracking form, and here's your how to tailor your resume form. Do not rely on that. Have a 15-minute closeout session with them, or a 20-minute session. Build it into the price of your service, so you can be like, now that you've got all this, here's your next step. And oh, by the way, and for my CDI Superhero Association members, oh, by the way, can be, here are step-by-step instructions on how to target your resume for next, the next positions you're going after. And I know we talked about networking, but here are step-by-steps on that. So, you have these things already in your member portal that you can use, but you build the testimonials into that and educating them on tracking, and you get them excited about the ROI of tracking. What you're doing is that you can see progress. You can see where, okay, I'm putting all my eggs in the Indeed basket and I'm not getting interviews. And Janine said I should be networking. I should be on LinkedIn. And look, there's nothing in the LinkedIn category for how many people I engaged with today or this week. So you're getting them accountable and you're training them. That's what it is. You're training them. I hope that makes sense. If it is, well, Janine says, good point. I do a final coaching session to show them how to use the tools, but need to really add in a debrief for the other items too. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that with me. I love when you guys interact. It makes this a lot more fun. Otherwise, I just feel like I'm almost yelling information at you in my excitement. All right, anybody else has opinions on testimonials? I'd love to see them in the chat, but let's move on because I spent a lot of time on that one. So the next step, obviously I've mentioned asking for them. I've mentioned the debrief. I've pretty much already told you about this. I told you about the tip sheets and everything. But I am very passionate about referrals. A lot of the people that I consult with privately or who are in the Career Industry Accelerator Club, they hear me say, or if you've watched enough of my 4-figure sales, 6-figure income free video series that's on our free stuff page, then you've heard me, talking about this whole, sorry, I took a drink of water because I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? I got so excited, I don't even know. Let me think for a minute here. What am I talking about? So I get really passionate about how these are a critical part, referrals are a critical part of my business. And when I used to have a practice, and this is what I educate those populations that I just went down the rabbit hole and lost my train of thought, I would always say, look, if you want your referrals to be 45, 90% of your business, you need to express the importance of them. And it's super easy for someone to understand who was referred to you. And the more you build your referrals, the more people get it, and they're going to already be partially trained to refer. But I always would say, I have a 2-point strategy for my business, lifeblood of my company, testimonials with metrics. And you understand that because it's part of the reason why it's probably the main reason you decided to work with me, is because of the kind of success you were able to see that others aren't showing. And I said, and then the other part is referrals. Those are lifeblood. Those, I'm very proud of the fact that my clients are raving fans. You see how I'm like training them up front to see me as somebody that, oh, everybody else sees her as wonderful, and her testimonials say she's wonderful. I'm going to have a wonderful time. So I incorporate that into, telling them how I want them to think about me. Now, obviously, you've got to deliver that same type of experience. You can't be like, I'm wonderful. You have to actually be wonderful in what you're doing, but you've got to ask for them. Just start asking, start educating. All right, who asks? Who doesn't ask? Who wants to tell me that in the chat? I would love to hear. Who's gonna start asking if you're not now? And do you have any questions on asking? So next one, sending a thank you. So before you all go, oh God, Laura's so old, I want to stress to you that there's all sorts of different ways you can send thank yous. And I know the easy give is to send one by email or by LinkedIn. And hey, that's great. But if you're like all of us with businesses, or all of us who subscribe to way too much junk stuff or taken too many courses, your inbox is glutted. And you might not, even if you're active on LinkedIn, you could miss something, which obviously we want to train people to be paying attention when they're in a job search. But these are very cluttered places now for people. So I am still, one of the ways I talk to people about saying thank you and having that, again, top of mind focus is to get an old school note card and put it in the mail. Now, you don't have to do it yourself. You could use a service like sendoutcards.com. I believe they're still around. You can't include, unless they've changed things. The last time I used them, you couldn't include anything, but probably now they have a stuffing service, and that's awesome. But you could design the card literally with a QR code built right into the card, since you're able to do a completely custom card with your own art if you choose to. You can also choose from cards that they have. But my point is that who gets good mail? I don't know. Do you have maybe prison pen pals or old school family that send you, grandma still send you $10 in the mail? I'm watching the chat because I want to know who regularly gets good mail. It's mostly bills and the occasional IRS notice, which I hate every time they write me anything, which sometimes it's just usually it's an update, but I have a heart attack when that envelope comes. What's happening? Yeah. But it's flyers, it's bills. So mail is a really nice way to stand out. It's super simple. It's super quick. A VA can do it for you. A family member can do it for you. A neighbor that you're paying can do it for you. A service can do it for you. And it's just such a nice way. It's also a great way for people to remember you. When I did placement at the university, I sent cards, and I sent really corny, like I can't even think of a corny one now. If I went in my drawer, I could show you because I still have all the corny cards because I still use them. But just like corny, funny, celebratory things. And they were such a hit, and people would keep them. And the next time they had an opening, they would call me first. So Gina says she checks her mailbox once a month, LOL. Yeah, right? I know, because nothing good comes. But this can be a way to stand out and give your client something they can remember. Maybe you go to vistaprint.com and you print out a top 10 things to do in your job search postcard, and you're just sticking that in the mail with a hand scrolled, I so enjoyed working with you. And of course it has your email and your website address on it. Something they can actually use, something they'll want to keep. And this is super old school, but totally corny. And I'm not recommending you do this, but just as an example of things you can send out, I used to do business card magnets back when I had my practice. And I would send people a couple business card magnets, and I never did they use them? What, who cared? It was a good way to keep me top of mind. And then one of my clients tells me one day, he says, "Can I have an extra magnet?" He's like, "Because I want to put it on the lockers at Harris Corporation," which Harris is a huge corporation, locations all over the place. And anyway, I was like, but that was here, and I'm here by NASA and Kennedy Space Center, and a lot of aerospace is here. And so he just was doing it locally. Well, Harris's HR called me, and they were like, we've heard about you, and we actually have employee programs. I would have never at the time imagined that corporations even were going to be a referral source for resume writing and career coaching services. But they're like, we have clients all the time internally trying to make changes, or that new blood rotation thing, time to leave. We would love to add your company to our list of referral services. All we ask is that you be willing to give 10% off to Harris employees. Okay, I want to reach your thousands of employees by being listed as the only it was literally the only resume writing and career coaching service. So super, super cool. So you just never know. And one of our members, Kyle Elliott, Dr. Kyle Elliott, he sent out the coolest motivational cork coaster at Christmas. I got one. And you know what? That thing it's on my island. I put some knickknacks on top of it, but I was like, oh, this is super cool. I like this. I like what it says. And it stays there as a motivational thing. So maybe it's a motivational quote that's on that thing. But all right, let me just, before I get out of the saying thank you, there's more modern ways you can do it. One of the things I love, have you ever looked at Video Ask? Videoask is the name of it. And I've only used the free version, but it's super great because you can record a message to your client. So kind of a lot like what you could do. You can do an audio like on Facebook Messenger or text and some of the other platforms, but it literally lets you by email send a short video. The idea being you're supposed to be asking them something, but it could be a, hey, Janine, I so enjoy, actually, it might be more formal if you've done like a 4-figure professional service, and it might be, hi, Janine. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for you. It has been such a pleasure to work with you up to this point on creating your job search journey. You've got all the tools you need and all the knowledge now, but I am here. I am in your corner. I can't wait to see what happens as you're tracking and celebrate with you the successes that you have when you land your new job. I want to know all about it. But on your journey, if you have any pitfalls or problems, please get in touch with me because I want to make sure you excel. That's not a free indication that you're going to coach them for free. It's an empowering, message of you talking, which is super powerful to hear and see you since it's a video. And they can also reply, which is super cool. All right, let's see. Somebody says, I love my coaster from Kyle. My dog ate mine and thought it was a cookie. It is kind of shaped like a cookie, but yeah. And Janine said to something I said earlier, I love that idea. Janine, dogs will do that, LOL. Yeah, so will cats, little monsters. Okay. So anybody here? I know Gina only checks her mail once a month, but what about the rest of you? Anybody else who uses the mail, the old school mail idea, or likes the Video Ask idea, or has a different technique for, staying in touch with clients? I'm about to start talking about nurturing with emails in their inbox. But I would love to know what else you guys are doing. So, all right, let me move on. All right. Lists, autoresponders, follow-ups. Look, I know especially like when we were in the COVID quarantine, there was a very interesting thing that took place. And that was most businesses who had a list of prospects, that could be people who had to think about it, who went back onto the list, or it was people who had signed up through a lead magnet that you had on your website or in your about section of your LinkedIn or your link tree on other social media, but somehow they had got themselves on a list. And then hopefully as you were ending with a client, you were saying, Joe, I want to make sure that you can find me, and I always use that story I told you earlier about the client who was like, thank goodness you emailed me because I couldn't remember your name or your website or your email. So, you're giving them practical reasons. I'm going to share, tips with you. I'm going to support you. You're going to remember who I am for when you're ready to celebrate, refer, or need an update. So you get their buy-in, because especially you need their buy-in. You can't just add someone to an email autoresponder list without their permission. But anyway, back to the COVID thing. Those who had the lists, it was super easy when I put out the infographics about here's what you need to do to educate, stay top of mind, not let them get scared and freeze, job seekers, I mean. If you had a list, you were able to go to that list. And I can remember specifically like Marie Plett saying, okay, I used that strategy and I closed 3 sales in the middle of a pandemic by doing it. It might have been 2 sales, but if you didn't have a list, then it was almost like a paralysis. So if you don't have a list yet, if you've never put all your clients onto a list, my recommendation, and I would love to hear a shorter, easier version, but like the quickest thing is, do you have a teenager or a neighbor if you don't have a VA? Or can you put all your old resumes and projects into Dropbox and use like an offshore VA who doesn't charge a lot, who can go through and extract into a spreadsheet name, email address, and then they need to be done. They can't be done through a service like Constant Contact or Active Campaign or any of those. They have to be done manually to get permission. And that's why you want somebody who you can pay a low amount to reach out to people. It's still a templated email, and you could do a mail merge email, but it's kind of like, hi, Brian. It's been a while, but we worked together on your, resume writing and blah, 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 blah. And I realized that I've probably fallen off of your radar, but we should connect because I want to make sure you're staying up to date and have the best tools, techniques, and can progress in your career effectively. I've added you to my list so that you'll be able to receive tips, stay motivated, and have me be top of mind should you need me in the future. Don't worry, if you don't want these emails, simply opt out when you receive the first one. And that's how you get them on the list. Same email to everyone, mail merging the name. A lot of footwork to get that list done, but so important to have the list and so important to have the lead magnet. And if you don't have a lead magnet or know what I'm talking about, I'm not going into it today. But again, my CDI Superhero members, we have a whole lesson on that. We have an example of one that is a good converting tool. Go get it. So you want to stay in touch with your clients, even when you perceive they're past the time frame of their job search. You can automate your entire process. Even if you have clients who you send off with questionnaires, you can put them into a sequence for that, where it's like, okay, just a reminder, this is due. And, obviously you want to use the same timetables and whatnot. But having an automated sequence of emails that nurtures them, supports them, gives them tips. And then every once in a while you can come in with something live, like next week for my CDI Association member superheroes, I'm doing a training on having a Cyber Week offer. So that's a great time to have a list and write something unique and different as a way to move the needle on people remembering you. All right, let's see. Janine says, I assume she's talking about sending out the cards. I did my first 2 years, but stopped. Need to start sending out things again. Yeah, we get busy, right? And we think, does it really matter? But honestly, it doesn't matter how you're engaging, just that you are engaging, you're doing it regularly, and you're doing it well. So lists, there are a lot of different email services. This is a good conversation for us to have in the CDI Facebook community if you want to talk about what services to use. I'm an ActiveCampaign gal after getting off of Infusionsoft, aka now Keep, which I call Confusionsoft, because it was just, if I can't do an automation myself, it's too much for me. I want something, even though I have other people like wonderful Lynn who does that stuff, I don't want to. It needs to be simple. Okay. What about you guys? Anything you would add there? Let me know in the chat. Okay. Last thing on this topic, you can incentivize. This is my lowest item I would put on the list for referrals is, do you actually need to incentivize people or have a formal referral program? I'm gonna be honest, I tried it. And we have, again, association member, Career Superheroes, an entire tip sheet on best practices for customer referrals you'll want to check out. And anything I've mentioned today, I'll put links in the debrief post that goes out tomorrow from today's live, so you can find these great things. But bottom line, my personal experience was when I tried to formalize it and be like, oh, I'm going to give you this and, you know, gifts and whatnot, it was like my channel like dried up. Like the people were doing it more out of, I know it was more psychological than anything, but I was like, I saw a dip in my referrals. So I went back to just saying, first of all, you send me a referral, and this is the same thing. Like if I ever send you a referral from my practice, my clients, like I still get clients reaching out to me when I haven't had a resume business since 2009. If I refer somebody to you and you don't even acknowledge it, I'm never referring anyone to you ever again. That's just the way it is. Or if you come back and tell me what a terrible match they were in negative ways without thanking me first, I'm never referring anyone. That's just how life works, is, you know, people want to do something nice, they want to be thanked for it. So I always say you should thank them. Obviously, if you take a certain type of client, you might want to, you know, remind them of that. But really, don't ghost somebody because it wasn't a good match or the person didn't buy. To me, that's always a reason to send a thank you. And again, be top of mind with my awesome client who tried to send me business. And what I would tell people is, when I was talking about referrals, is I would say, you know, look, you're always going to hear from me if you send somebody to me, so you'll know if they followed through, even if they didn't buy. And I don't have a formal referral program because I found it kind of, I don't know, people didn't love it. But what they do love is when they come back for an update and a couple of their referrals have hired me, they get a wonderful discount. And, you know, is it a huge discount? No. Do I tell them how much of a discount it is? No. I've never had anybody go, well, how much of a discount do I get? And if they did, I would be like, it's about 20%. You pick the number, but you don't have to formalize it. We don't have to get, like I said, there's no huge moving pieces in referrals with our clients. These are all easy things. I would love to see #easy in the chat if you agree with me that, short of if you don't have a list, everything I've proposed today is just like, it's pretty easy, right? Janine says, giving me good ideas to bring up during our Career Industry Accelerator Club call next week. Yes, we talk about this more for sure. So yeah, drop me a #easy if, yeah, thank you, Janine, for saying it's easy. Okay, so that's me wrapping up, talking about referrals. Where do you go here? Pick something, take action. If you're somebody whose business is on, you know, the down track right now, you got all sorts of awesome things you can do with this low-hanging fruit of clients that you've had over the years or months you've been in business. You have everybody you talk to, you have opportunities to get referrals from people who possibly you've never even worked with, although happy clients are easiest. Hey, Laura says #easy too. Hi, Laura. I didn't know you were here. Awesome. All right, so I'm hoping that, I got some hashtag easies. So I'm hoping that you agree that this is good news. Again, nothing complicated. And even in the other two subjects, it's not going to be complicated when I start talking about them. All we need here is a little elbow grease and possibly a new, fresh perspective on going back to something we stopped doing or never did before. We might need to get an offshore VA or pay a neighbor or a teen to help us for a little while to get things organized, but it's all doable. It's all, easy, frictionless stuff. So remember, there are resume writers and career coaches out there that are killing it right now, and you can catch up if you're willing to ignite your mission and put those poker chips back on the table and start doing them. So finally, put engagement systems in place for former clients and create practices with current ones. Give all of your clients an amazing experience. Know that if your skills are exemplary, which I expect you to be, that you can be confident that if a client is going to report a failure to you, that ultimately it's not going to be on what you taught them, but it's going to be on what they're doing. And it's an opportunity for you to get them back on track and possibly even make another service while staying top of mind. Surprise, delight, follow up. To stay top of mind. Ask. Don't forget to ask. Don't assume. And don't be afraid to start poking at the other highest ROI strategies. So who's excited? I know we got it easy, but who's excited by this? Give me a hashtag excited or yay in the chat. All right, so I hope that you got some great ideas. I've gotten a sense from Janine and Gina and Laura that there's some good stuff on track here. Janine says excited. Hopefully you've got other ideas that you're going to come share with me. Like Janine, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say at the Career Industry Accelerator Club meeting next Wednesday. I know I went really long today, so I really appreciate you guys sticking with me. I just want to deliver really great content. And just remember, low-hanging fruit. This is not saying, oh, you got to spend $10,000 a month on an ad budget. This is going to people who already know and like you. So, all right, start telling yourself, I'm willing to get scrappy if you need to get scrappy, because that is what is going to keep you in the game. Okay, let me tell you what happens now in closing. If you like what you hear and you want more of it, be sure to please like, subscribe, follow. Mark your calendars for 3:45 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. Next week, I'm going to be deep diving into partnerships. There will be no new charts next week. Yay! We're going to talk about partnerships. I'm going to choke myself here. So that will be our subject next time. Woohoo! If you want more help, if you need help, first of all, I've told my association members multiple resources you've got in the members section. We do have lots of ways for those of you who aren't yet members. And if anybody wants to tell them, any of my wonderful soups who are here wants to comment in the chat, like worth it, or why aren't you members yet? Please do so. But you can go over to the CDI website, careerdirectors.com/free stuff. And there's this one great page that is like the ultimate taste test, to the point where we have a testimonial on the page from one of our association members who actually says, I built a six-figure business based on the free resources, so of course I joined, because why wouldn't I want to spend under $300 a year, like a small portion of one sale, to get all the awesome goodness to stay on top of my game. So on that page, you can join our Facebook community, which is open to members and non-members. Every day we ask a new question so that you have a way to engage for accountability, networking, building partnerships, getting support, and on Sundays, even having fun. We share fun memes. You have access to lessons, deep dive lessons from our member vault of resources for that taste test. But listen, there's a lot there. Where do you start? This is always a problem. That's why we have the quiz, which is a 1-minute quiz on the number one thing that's blocking you from building a 6-figure practice. And even if you're not self-employed yet and you're just like, maybe I want to do that, it's a great quiz, because one of the things blocking you can be technical skills and needing to build those. The awesome thing about the quiz is not only does it put you on my list where I share a sequence of 14 emails where I share things like the things I wish I'd known when I started my practice, the things I feel were the biggest benefit to me, quickly building a 6-figure business. That's tips I want all CDI's members to have that they're not getting if they haven't done the quiz either. But most importantly, it tells you what your blocker is, and it curates those free lessons for you so you can start with the ones most applicable to you rocketing to success. And for my members, again, my association members, my superheroes, you're, as always, going to get a copy of the slides, even though they're kind of scary this week. You're going to get the recording right in your membership vault, and you're going to get a special prompt. So, tremendous benefit to being a CDI member. I don't think I need to go into it because I've talked a lot about it, and some of the things that they have immediate access for and done for you tools and resources. But for my members, you're also going to get another prompt. I'm trying to deliver to you a AI prompt every week, whether you're using Claude or ChatGPT or Bard. I'm giving you a new prompt, and this one is marketing again. So I created a prompt that lets you find specific targets in a niche. And look, I know not everybody is into a niche or wants to have a niche, but that's okay. This is still about picking a population that you really appreciate, and then finding out where they hang out in terms of forums, associations, websites, companies, the recruiters for that specific niche. It's a really cool prompt that I'm pretty excited about. And you'll be able to create these dazzling lists for yourself or even for your client on where they should be looking in their niche for places to go stand out, network, and get support. So really excited. All right, Laura says, if there are non-members here, seriously, do not wait. Thank you, Laura. I love you, Laura. Laura and I have been in this industry about the same time together, and she's awesome. She's one of our, a little shout out to Laura, live conferences. Man, she was always 5 out of 5, the favorite speaker of every event that we had her present at. She's a rock star. So really excited. Thank you, Janine and Gina and Laura, and of course Lynn, and my unnamed Facebook users, and Rebecca, and whoever didn't chime in. I'm so grateful that you are here. I hope I will see you at 3:45 Eastern next Wednesday to talk about partnerships. And until then, let's all fly higher. You guys have a great day.